Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Whitehouse. Senator Lankford is next.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you to all of our nominees. It's not a fun process to go through all of the questioning and all the prep and everything else that goes into this. So I appreciate all the work that you've already done going through this process and to be able to get to this point on this. I do want to be able to have a conversation for our IRS future counsel here to be able to talk through just the issues here. It's a pretty straightforward question. The IRS rules, do they carry the force and effect of law? For IRS rules, do they carry the force and effect of law?
Thank you. The IRS has the opportunity to, with Treasury, issue regulations on legislation that is passed by Congress, and those regulations are, in fact, treated as the interpretation of the law.
Right. Which, by the way, I'd agree with. Obviously, they're carrying that out. Most Americans would also receive that as well. The challenge has been of late is that in the past couple of years, Treasury has said that the IRS, when it goes through all its rulemaking process and actually put its regulations out, is not accountable to OIRA, it's the Office of Information Regulatory Affairs, that other agencies have to get their guidance checked, but Treasury is saying the IRS does not. That we are going to be exempt from that process and we can make rules without the oversight of OIRA. Should OIRA be involved in actually that oversight process, or can Treasury and IRS make rules outside of the Administrative Procedures Act?
You raise a really important point that actually was, when I was there at Chief Counsel the last time, had just started percolating because, in fact, for a long time, the rules didn't go through OIRA.
Right.
I do think there's been a change, especially given some of the court cases that have come out, in terms of what has to happen in order for the regulations to be considered to have met the APA and be compliant. And when I left the Office of Chief Counsel last time, our regulations were going through OIRA. So one thing that will be interesting, if I'm confirmed, is to understand where we are in that process.
Yeah, it was about 97 rules, as I recount, went through OIRA oversight during that time period where they were getting oversight. It seemed to flow. The initial concern was, well, this is going to slow the process down. Treasury, IRS, OIRA were able to work out a time period to be able to make sure that all of this had guidance. OIRA's design is to be able to make sure we don't end up in a bunch of lawsuits, we don't end up in legal challenges, we actually save the taxpayer money and time because it's actually gone through an internal review. It's interesting to me to be able to say, with all that's going on right now with IRS and with so many new regs that are coming online, that suddenly those don't apply to oversight. We can then look at the statute, apply it ourselves, and no one should look over our shoulder. I just don't agree on that. What'll be interesting is you're going to have some conversation on that. Obviously, as the council, you'll be in the middle of it saying, does this actually apply to us, or is IRS completely separate from the Administrative Procedures Act? Can we make up rules without it? How will you go about trying to be able to make that decision? I'm not going to put you on the spot on that to make that decision right now, but you're going to have to put a process in place to be able to make recommendations to the administration should we be independent.
Yeah. Thank you. I actually think it's one of the most important roles of Chief Counsel is to help ensure that regulations are found valid if and when challenged. They're going to be challenged a lot of the time.
Right.
Taxpayers deserve to understand the guidance comes out, that the guidance is going to apply to them. It is always concerning if people follow the guidance and then 10 years later it's found not valid and people have been following it for years. So I will be very interested in making sure that the Office of Chief Counsel does everything it can to make sure our regulations are found valid.
Okay, that'd be helpful. I think being a participant in the Administrative Procedures Act is not onerous. Every other agency does this, and it actually helps the taxpayer in the long term to be able to know that there's another set of eyes to be able to look at this. I know I'm running short of time, but churches, faith-based entities for years have a long-term struggle with the IRS in trying to determine when is it that they're talking about a moral, cultural issue, and when does that actually get into a political issue? What is their level of free speech as a nonprofit and as a faith-based entity? They have had all kinds of challenges, letters. I know pastors that have made a tape of a message where they talked about an issue, sent it in the IRS and says, does this cross a line, give us clarity on this, and have never been able to get clarity from IRS on that. And there seems to be this sword of Damocles that hangs over them all the time, waiting for some judgment, some rule to be able to come down. It's an issue that does need to be resolved, that faith-based entities also know that they maintain their free speech the same as everyone else does. But so far, IRS has been unwilling to be able to make that statement publicly that faith-based entities do not sacrifice their First Amendment rights as well. So any help and any guidance on that in the days ahead would be very helpful to faith-based entities all over the country.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thank my colleague, Senator Carper is next.